What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. This is the Paul Harrell program. BAAL robots built for hell on earth. What exactly does that mean? Well, there's a United States company which calls itself Satirus. Satirus. Interesting name. They're developing three halves of a robot. A centaur-style robot that is designed for dangerous environments such as wildfires, rubbles, searching toxic areas. But when you get a look at this thing, I think many of us, many people have already said, if I'm in a fire and I see that thing emerging from the flames, I'm running into the flames. I'm running away from that thing. We're going to talk about that, much more. RFK serving up some sweet justice on CNN over the weekend. Also, we'll give you an Iran war update. We've got a few new segments we're debuting today. One of them, Fourth Amendment funeral. We'll tell you about that. We got a great show for you. Hope you had a blessed Lord's Day, and the show starts right now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas here on LFA TV, live from America Television. Really appreciate you being with us. Also, glad that Eric Haynes is with us. He's in seat number 3 today. Rob couldn't make it. I'm going to tell you why here in just a moment. Eric, how you doing, sir?
So good to be part of the conversation today, brother.
It's great to have you. Have a good weekend. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything was great.
Okay, good. Rob isn't here today because...
This was the we took advantage of the Arkansas weather this weekend, which was very, very, very mild for what you would expect, by the way.
Yeah,
and
it was.
So we did a garage purge.
Oh,
this
nice.
was the garage purge weekend.
I need to do that so bad.
Yeah, we started having friends coming by and saying like, "Wow, well, this is a garage of somebody with 4 kids." You know,
yeah.
When you got to escort them around, like, don't come in through the garage. You got to go all the way around to the other side of the house.
Do you have bike racks in your garage?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because
yeah,
we only have the one, and I need just bike rack, scooter rack. I need all the racks like to hang from the ceiling. We've got to do a major revamp.
That was one of our first purchases, was going to Home Depot or Lowe's, I can't remember which one, and getting those built-ins and then the hooks that you hook on there. And so, yeah, everything that can be put up is up.
Good. Now, that's how you save the space for sure.
Yep.
We'll tell you about schedule changes here in a little bit. Let's get to the top story. I actually had this queued up for Friday, but I was ill on Friday, and so I wasn't able to do the show. But here is what I wanted to talk about. This is just the scariest thing. I don't even know what. I mean, to me, I see all of this as having a spiritual component of it, and whether or not you want to go down the animal hybrid chimera route, it's just so strange that we're going to make our robots look so scary. And this is what it looks like. This is a real thing. You can actually go to the website. Here it is, a Satirus. Okay, this is the robot that they're creating to try to help in fires, natural disasters. I don't know. I mean, I know the things on the arm there, for the hands, it looks like cameras, but those also look like weapons to me. And it's just another reminder that we quickly have the technology to enslave ourselves, oppress ourselves, and yet they're going to say, "Oh, this is for good." We want to use this for good. But this stuff to me is terrifying, and it's weird that you have companies that are so I'm sorry, I'm going to believe my own eyes here. I look at that and I see a cult. I see this is marketed to the occult. I think the BAAL comparison is perfectly fine. We've seen the photos of BAAL, the old artistic renderings of people handing their children, and it just seems like it's another data point for those that think this whole AI revolution is kind of based in the demonic, it's based in the satanic. And it's perfectly fine if you haven't come to those conclusions. Because I totally understand, like, if you're out there in the audience, or Eric, maybe you haven't come to those type of conclusions. I just feel like I see too much. I feel like I know too much. I've already come to those conclusions. But what would you do if you saw this thing emerging from the fiery rubble?
I don't like the horns. I hate the horns. It should be a dog, not a goat.
A dog. Yes.
You're in danger, and then this loyal, awesome dog comes up, and you see the kid in the commercial like reach up, and the dog, lifts it up on its back and carries it to safety. The goats do that.
Yeah. That looks more like
centaurs from the scary part on Harry Potter movies do that. No, they don't.
Well, it looks more like a bull.
Wait, did I say that right? Harry Potter, right? Not Lord of the Rings? Yeah, Harry Potter.
I don't think there's any centaurs that I know of in Loader, but there may be in the books or
it's
something.
Harry Potter.
So that looks like a bull to me, though, not a goat. Just FYI. It looks like a bull. That's the whole BAAL.
I was thinking
imagery.
Billy Goat.
Yeah. Either way, a goat is satanic as well. That the goat face and the Star of Mendez and all of that is satanic stuff.
Your mind went to Nebuchadnezzar and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Mine went
100%.
to that looks like a Billy Goat.
100%. It's just terrifying. It's like, well, I just want someone to explain to me what we're doing. Like, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of the data center? Like, what is the purpose of all of this? And I don't think we're being given a straight answer.
Oh, there's a good comment in the chat. Like maybe a unicorn, like one horn coming out of the front. My daughter would be like, "Yeah, come on, save me."
Yeah.
But that thing, no.
Yeah, running back into the flames for sure.
That's the thing of scary dreams for little kids.
Here's a Catholic priest response to this. Father Cassidy Stinson says, "Look, I'm still not the kind of priest to say things like they're putting demons in the robots, but the chainsaw-wielding black drones with eyeball horns are making it harder to argue my case." Look, that's the one with the chainsaw. They're holding the chainsaw. Oh, no.
Well, let's see how they perform under fire, under stress.
I'm here to help you.
That was like the Christian Bale Batman voice you just did right there. That was pretty good. Where are they?
It's not who I am underneath. It's but what I do that defines me. Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you.
That was really good.
So here's Shadow Vezra talking about it. This is the same. This is kind of all went viral, back on July the 30th. But it kind of is a good segue because the memes were already great, saying that, well, because of the satanic BAAL-looking drone, they're now going to create nursing home assistants as well, and they have this nursing home assistant that is, I don't know if you can see it on your screen the way I can, but that is clearly Anthony Fauci. That is an AI rendition of Anthony Fauci as some sort of demon. Some sort of demon.
That's the Fauci elk is what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
The Fauci elk.
Yeah, he visits you in the nursing home when it's time to give you your daily dose of remdesivir. But that brings us to last week, and we talked about the lack of accountability that we're going to experience, that we're currently experiencing, that we're going to experience with Fauci. In all likelihood, nothing's going to happen. But there was an interesting segment that happened with Peter Navarro on Piers Morgan's show. And Peter Navarro has spoken out against this in the past about what was exactly going on in 2020 and how Fauci kept, habitually overstepping his bounds. Of course, now we know with his diary and all of the documents that, he was actively deceiving the American people. Good grief, even Bill Maher now on his HBO show or wherever he's at, even Bill Maher is now correcting his woke guests and saying, we have the diaries now. We know this guy was lying. And essentially the conspiracy theorists were right. The conspiracy theorists were correct. So you go back to hydroxychloroquine. Interestingly enough, when we first heard, when Donald Trump, this was before the ivermectin, it was hydroxychloroquine. That was the first therapeutic that was suggested from President Trump. And he talked about it, and immediately it was politicized. And Fauci, behind the scenes, we now know, thanks to Peter Navarro, squashed it all. I mean, but I remember doctors that I knew that I thought were, my friends and not, let's just say that were at worst center-right leaning, right? Maybe not as far right as me, but during the height of the pandemic here locally, I texted one doctor. I was like, hey, do you think if I get sick, you can get me some hydroxychloroquine? And I got shut down immediately. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was like one indication that I was just convinced. I was like, okay, well, it is being politicized, but everybody who's in the medical community is they're not listening to anything that's coming from the White House that Fauci or the establishment medical people don't want. And I'll let you speak to that, Eric, because I know you have firsthand experience. But this is Peter Navarro talking about how he had thousands. He says thousands of Americans would be alive today because he had that warehouses full of hydroxychloroquine ready to get to Americans.
The best answer to your question, Piers, is hydroxychloroquine. I would guess, not knowing your views on this, that you think hydroxychloroquine is a quack medicine. But let me tell you this. This is one of the many fights I had with Tony Fauci. Hydroxychloroquine, we now know going forward with all the studies, is number one, it's a very safe medicine. Number two, it's particularly effective for prophylaxis, which helps first responders. And number three, it has a decent benefit in the first 7 days of an infection. So I had 1 million tablets of hydroxy sitting in warehouses ready to be dispensed to the American people. And you take this to the bank, Piers. If I had been able to do that, thousands of Americans would be alive. Now, where does Fauci come into this? And this is where the blame is. In March of 2020, Fauci in his diary, several diary entries, is on record saying that hydroxychloroquine is very, very safe.
Good grief.
He wanted it distributed immediately. He wanted remdesivir to go through trials, not the other way around. And he was all for it. The politics changed radically when President Trump said, hey, let's try hydroxychloroquine. There was like this just mass insanity in the left-wing media. Fauci flipped with that, and he was part of the pressure on the FDA to prevent this administration and me specifically from being able to do what I did. So when you ask me, do I give any slack to Tony Fauci, I say, absolutely not. There's a good case. I think we would have found out today whether he created the virus and killed people if he hadn't taken the fifth. And if I had been Rand Paul and the Justice Department, I would have given him immunity, good pun there, just to get the truth out of him. If you gave him like testimonial immunity, he would have had to answer those questions.
I mean, that would have been, people would have been outraged about that. But at the same time, the pardon is already there that apparently we're going to honor. I say we, meaning the White House. So, but yeah, it's a fascinating truth now that's come out. He actually was for it, and then when Trump talked about it, all of a sudden, what happens? All of a sudden, Anthony Fauci probably, if he was for it, he probably, who knows? Because Anthony Fauci was also, I think you can also say he's the puppet master, but at the same time being controlled as well, because I think this whole thing was a giant intelligence op on the entire world, personally. And he's told, hey, look, nope, we're not going to do the hydroxychloroquine, and instead we're going to give him remdesivir, even though the remdesivir needed to go through trials. That's a very interesting admission by Peter Navarro, because the remdesivir, according to some, is what actually made people much sicker. And there was already trials. The drug remdesivir had already gone through a trial years ago to try to treat Ebola. And 6 months into it, they had to discontinue the remdesivir, keep with the other drugs that they were experimenting with, because the remdesivir was killing a lot of people, shutting their kidneys down.
Absolutely.
And then we had that study, and we gave it to COVID patients anyway. That again is criminal, but it's nuts that Peter Navarro on national television is now saying, hey, look, if we would have been able to get him to answer questions, we would have found out whether or not he created the virus, which is wild. But I think that's something intuitively we already know is true.
Yeah, don't you think that we already kind of know that?
Yeah, we know. Yeah. So, thousands of Americans, he says, would still be alive if you'd have had the therapeutic treatments. And I'll just tell you my own experience with ivermectin was one of, I mean, I took ivermectin when I finally got COVID, assuming those tests were even accurate. I mean, I finally got COVID after my dad got it, and I had to help him up off the floor because he was running such a high fever, and he had no respiratory issues, and eventually had to go to the hospital because he was that sick. And, of course, they tried to give him remdesivir. We throw a fit. I thought that day I was going to potentially get arrested. It crossed my mind I was going to end up getting arrested because I was just so fearful of the medical community in my own hometown. I was 100% convinced that they are completely wrong and are giving people a drug that's actually, by that point, I knew what remdesivir was doing, based on reports. And so what we did was we smuggled in ivermectin into the hospital because they had the strict policy about who could come and go.
I remember that.
So we went home and we had ivermectin in saline solution, which was from the what's called noromectin. It's got a picture of a cow and a pig on it. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't the horse paste; it was the other. And I was thankfully had a person in my family that had already done this with her whole family. And it worked it worked in 6 hours time. And so that's what we did. We went home, and we got little Tupperware containers, little tiny ones, with orange juice and the proper dose based on his weight of the ivermectin, which was in saline solution, and we gave it to him. And he was checked out of the hospital the next day. He was walking within like 6 hours. Couldn't walk when he went in, was walking after the ivermectin. The rage, then I ended up contracting it. And then I had to take it. And it was the same thing. High fever, miserable after that first dose of ivermectin. Never had fever again. Headaches, had pains, but never had fever again after that. And the rage that I felt was just, oh my gosh. We grew up in a day, Eric, where you could basically say politics is not life or death. We can agree to disagree. If the younger generation wants to know why things are so hyper politicized now, more so than they've ever been, I think I would just tell young people, well, some people credit politics with saving lives. Your politics in 2020, 2021 potentially dictated whether or not your loved one lived or died or not. And that is... That's historic, and also, crossing the Rubicon.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Of course, we never told anybody what we did. We didn't tell the staff of the hospital. They had no idea what happened. We didn't tell them.
Yeah,
they were ready for him to die. I'm not saying they wanted him to. I'm just saying they were. It's like they had seen this a million times by now, of somebody coming in this sick. And yet the next day, he was literally checked out the next day. So, do with that what you will. Here is another clip of Stephen A. Smith. So a lot of people are having apologies now, and they're changing their minds. And Stephen A. Smith, who's trying to operate in some sort of hybrid leftist ecosphere where he can kind of cross over into the right.
Yeah. People
have mentioned that he may run for president someday. Or I have no idea. But Stephen A. is trying to thread a needle here with not just this particular topic, but his whole persona and having his own show that's separate from sports where he kind of talks politics is a very fascinating thing. And I don't obviously fully trust this guy. But he has come out and he's apologized to not only Kyrie Irving, but also Aaron Rodgers.
One size never fit all with this virus during this pandemic.
He's so dramatic.
But yet there were many people encouraging folks to do it anyway. Kyrie Irving wasn't one of them. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave for his willingness to stand up and say, nah, I'm not doing that. It's just a time for reflection and look at things differently. And with Kyrie Irving, that should certainly be the case. Especially now, after what we witnessed on Capitol Hill yesterday. And when I see anything about the Rona, as they say, the coronavirus pandemic, and I see anybody testifying, and every time I see further suspicions coming to light about what it entails, I think about him.
All right, I'm not gonna. I mean, it's a 6-minute clip. There's so many dramatic pauses in it. But he even mentions Aaron Rodgers and how Aaron Rodgers, he refused to get the shot. Kyrie Irving refused, and now, I mean, that's the other thing that's really lost here is that it is now becoming more more admitted that the whole thing. I mean, you've seen the movie V for Vendetta. You have the virus, then you have the cure, and the cure is worse than the virus. It's literally now becoming more like common dinner table conversation that's exactly what this country went through. Yeah.
I'm going to just be very transparent with you in the audience. I really, really struggle with this topic all these years later now with summarizing a topic that is just so tough to summarize for it and to think through and to remind myself of all the things that I did, all the frustrations that I had personally, all the family members and all the decisions that we made, the things that we allowed ourselves to go through in an attempt to keep our kids in school, to be able to see grandparents before they died, all those things. And I consider myself blessed because I know, last week in talking about it, there was obviously a ton of audience members that don't feel like they got as lucky and have horrible, horrible stories that they lived through and went through personally and will probably never recover from. Just the memories of that time period, the loss of family members, the lack of connection with people that they've known and loved their whole life, and all of a sudden I think about my granddad sitting in his recliner in Paragould for basically like months on end, not being able to have any contact with anybody. Thankfully he was still home taking care of himself, and we were able to find ways to bring him some joy every once in a while. But I mean, there were plenty of others that were just sent to nursing homes to die. The things that we did to be able to get on an airplane, to be able to travel and to go into grocery stores and to just let our kids go to school and try to learn how to read, like that is scarred in my memory and will be probably for the rest of my life. And I know it has certainly scarred a whole generation of young kids who went through it, who missed graduations and proms and fun and growing up and interactions and togetherness and all that stuff. And then again, on the flip side of that, I know healthcare workers that were put in horrible, horrible positions. Mm-hmm. And I see it every day in my occupation now, where our nursing community will probably never fully recover. It'll take a whole nother generation to get back to the kind of staff and situation that we had pre-COVID, in the quality of folks that we had in that profession. Because so many thousands of the great ones that were there, that were mentors for the young ones, that trained young nurses and hospital workers, they left. They couldn't take it, what they were being put through and what they saw their administrators of their hospitals deciding for them and for their health and for their patients' health. And it's really sickens me to think back about it now. Seeing Dr. Fauci on that stand or in that seat last week doing what he did, it literally made me sick to my stomach.
I'm sorry, man.
It really, really did, because I saw so many decisions that hospital administrators, state administrators, state politicians, everybody in the mainstream media. What does Dr. Fauci say? What does the Fauci administration tell us? What does the God of science think we can do now? And I saw that play out so many times in the hospitals and surgery centers and clinics and places where I work, and it's it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible memory that I hope, it's like sometimes my kids were young enough to where I don't think they were as scarred as others are, but I just hope that the frustrations of the adult world and what they have teaches them a lesson not to ever let this happen again, and that the young kids in the generation growing up right now can put that back as far deep into the back of their brains and in their memories as they can. That will be the ultimate victory, is if we can really move past it in the right way. Because again, I really, really struggle with that whole era and what it did to so many people. And I would be in rooms with physicians all the time, having conversations, and things would come up and it would stop them in their tracks because they knew they wanted to say something. They saw what was wrong. We laughed, and it was comical. Some of the things going on with masks and the vaccines and other things, and we just looked at each other and it was just a head shake, very nonverbal, because so many were so fearful of losing jobs, being fired. I mean, the people I work, we got a lot of bills, and they can't afford to be kicked out of the hospitals that they work in. They have big contracts, and to see them muzzled the way that they were, I hope and pray that nothing like that ever happens again. And I'm sorry to go on such a
I appreciate it.
Little rant about that, but I just, every time we get to talking about this, it's just, it's so frustrating to remind myself of all the things every single day, day in and day out. And sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll literally hit my time lapse and go back 5 or 6 years from now, and I'll do this for years to come. And I'll just scroll through some pictures from back then and a lot of the things that I was taking snapshots of and memories that I have, and it'll just push something up front that just frustrates the ever-loving crud out of me.
Yeah.
Really
I appreciate you sharing that. I really do. But it's something
I've got a vaccine card that isn't worth the paper that it's written on, that I'm embarrassed that I have right now, because I thought if I'm going to be able to fly around and go to healthcare courses and go through all this stuff, like I've got to be able to travel. I'm going to have this vaccine card. I'm going to have these jabs so that I can walk into these big hospitals and be able to walk around and do my job. And it is just a major source of frustration, and I just live with it every day. It's frustrating.
Well, I hadn't even considered that, of what this does to somebody like you, or any, there's obviously a lot more of you out there. Silver lining. Here's potential silver lining. Some 4th, 5th, 6th grader that lived through this, they may, when they become adults, they may have a radical appreciation for freedom and realizing, like, wow, what was done to me will never, ever happen to my kids ever again. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that this can't ever happen again in any iteration or whatever's coming down the pike next. Whether you've got and that's why I think the young people are so against AI and data centers. I think they're able to put two together and know there was enough resistance to this that now the surveillance state's going to make it a lot harder to resist with whatever it is the next time.
Yeah.
But here's also the silver. I mean, RFK Jr. goes on CNN over the weekend. I've got a few clips of this with Dana Bash.
And one of the mistakes we made in the last time was suppressing those rights so people weren't being heard. The doctors who were saying you're doing it wrong were being marginalized and vilified.
Yeah, and because again, I really want to move on, but
Yeah,
you were saying
because
yes,
you
I
were
do.
part of the problem.
No, I wasn't part of the problem.
There was absolute press malpractice. You weren't allowing
Mr. Secretary, your job
is a fierce skepticism toward authority. And
yes,
you weren't doing that. You were beating up
My job
on people
is also,
who were dissenting.
No. Okay, you want to sit here and attack me,
or
do you want to have
100%.
conversations
They
about
were
something
beating
else?
up on
I'm not
people that were
attacking you. I'm
dissenting.
asking questions about how to
Nope,
prevent the
they
next
weren't asking
recession.
questions.
I'll tell you.
That's what I'm trying.
So,
No.
Dana Bash cannot admit this.
Absolutely.
Because if she admits it, then she has to say, I'm responsible for people dying.
That's right.
And they are. They had their part to play. They got their paycheck. And yes, they are responsible for this.
We have the receipts. Chris Cuomo and Rachel Maddow and Don Lemon and all those idiots from back then. We have the receipts. You were absolutely complicit sheep. And you told people wrong.
And you're giving them information, and I think
you can try to stand by it now as like, oops, we were only going by what Dr. Fauci told us.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead and try to make him the scapegoat or somebody else.
Right. That's all they can do. And, maybe there's some of them that were just doing that, but I think others were actively deceiving. I mean, I think that's largely the mainstream media's job. Actively deceive your audience so that they make choices based on information they believe to be true, but is false. I think there's a real malice to a lot of this.
100%.
That, maybe there's somebody that's duped out there that's a journalist, but most of them weren't. Most of them were so blinded by their hatred for average Americans because of Donald Trump that the ends justified the means. You'll never convince me otherwise.
This was not blissful ignorance.
Right.
Or something that just can be written off as, well, we were just trying based on the information we had. No.
Yeah.
People were calling out that information as being completely wrong and not objective. I'm standing there at the scrub sink looking at the box that says, on these masks, that says, will not stop and will not prevent COVID-19, written on the box of masks. Like, don't tell me that. Yep. Don't tell me you didn't know.
And then if you said it was from a lab, they said, oh, you're a racist. They literally tried to say, you're being racist against Chinese people.
Yeah, you don't like Chinese people.
And the only reason in hindsight now they were so against the lab leak narrative, because as far as their ends go, as far as the ends go, whether it comes from a lab or a wet market, it's still a pandemic that gets us to shut down our country and make things difficult on the president and mail-in ballots and blah, 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 right? The only reason you don't want to admit that it's from a lab is because the people controlling the media know it's from a lab and know it was intentional.
Yeah.
There's no other explanation for being so hostile towards that.
There was nothing wrong with President Trump saying it came from China.
Yeah.
I call it the China virus because it came from China. That doesn't make him a racist.
Right.
That's just where it came from.
But that's what they went with. And of course, I've got to add the context that, yes, it came from China. Do I think it was intentional? Yes. But because of Fauci, Eco-Ec Alliance, and our own government, look, I mean, we can acknowledge it's from China and also say our own government, did this. Yeah. So we have to make sure. I want to be a pet peeve on. That's my pet peeve now. Is yes, blame China, but we also have to say blame our own government for doing this.
Yeah.
And that puts our own government in the history books with some of the worst governments, genocidal governments in the history books.
Yeah, Fauci knew what Wuhan was.
All right, so more on this exchange. This is a longer clip. It may be a little bit. There was a lot of stuff talked about. I think this is about the vaccines and measles.
Your job is telling the truth to the American people.
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that there is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things out there in science.
You're repeating
and it
it like a parrot. You're repeating it like a parrot.
So
I've actually read the science. You don't want to come back here and debate the science.
I'm not debating this with you.
Of course you won't.
No, because I'm not debating.
All you know how to do is repeat things that people told you and say, trust the experts. That's what you did during COVID. Now we know that Anthony Fauci, who was the expert, was lying about everything, about masks, about social distancing, about natural immunity, about the transmission from the vaccine, about the source of COVID. He was lying, and you were punishing people for not trusting the experts. And now you're rolling out the experts again to talk about something that you have no personal knowledge of.
Okay, well, guess what? that is my job to talk to people.
Your job is.
Am I allowed to talk?
Well, that is my job to parrot
The
the
fact
opinion.
that she said, "Guess what?" like, guess what? Here comes the truth bomb. Like, come on. Guess what?
Man. This is,
You could tell he had her so rattled
I
that
know.
she could not keep her composure. She knew she was getting called out.
Yeah.
And
look,
you just wish there were so many more guests that would come on that network
I
and do the
know.
same thing. But they don't. I mean, this is such a rare situation to have somebody calling a spade like that on CNN. I mean, wild.
I'm going to finish.
Well, guess what?
I'm going to finish the clip.
That's what we need a new segment
Yeah,
called. Well,
yeah.
guess what?
Yeah. And have old Dana Bash. Old Dan Bash.
Don Lamont.
Yes,
well,
and my
guess
job is
what?
to
I'm
get
here.
as much information as I can. And what we were doing,
skepticism.
what we were doing in COVID and still, with regard to these vaccines, is getting the best information, the best science that we.
Yeah, well, whatever. Then we have let's
Best
see.
information and best science. Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Best science. You shut down the best science. You called those people quacks.
Yeah. This may be the same clip that we're going to hear, but it's also a little bit a different length. So let's listen to this one.
You are the HHS secretary.
No, it's a little different.
And you are talking about things that lead to vaccine hesitancy in this country, and it is something.
By the way, I mean we've got to talk about how when they go to break from this ad, or when we go to the break from this
Can you
segment,
imagine?
it's going to be like, you need this vaccine brought to you by Pfizer, or you need Sky Rizzy to help with your herpes, or whatever. I don't even know. Sky Rizzy is the dumbest name for, I don't know. What is Sky Rizzy for? It's for something, right? But get this, they've even got vaccines now where they're just like,
Control is everything to me.
Yeah.
Oh.
control your herpes today. I don't know if I don't think that's what it's for.
No,
but
it's not.
They definitely they've got vaccine, or they've got medicine now for for gay people now, and AIDS and stuff or whatever. I don't know. They've got all of this out there. But that's the truth is like she's simping for people that are literally funding her to say this, and when they go to break.
By the way,
What is
Sky Rizzy is for Crohn's disease,
my bad,
not
my
herpes, you
My bad.
jerk.
Why?
How dare you, sir?
Why did they call it Sky
Hey,
Rizzy?
Paul, well, guess what? That's not even for herpes.
Why call it Sky Rizzy? Is Crohn's disease?
You're talking about Valtrex, by the way.
Okay, yeah, Valtrex, whatever. So
Not the same.
Sky Rizzy. Why do they call it Sky Rizzy?
I don't know.
Now, is
I mean,
Crohn's
you look
disease? Let me ask you
Look
this.
at trade names.
Let
I
me
mean, why do they
ask you
call
this.
Viagra
Now,
Viagra?
let me ask you this: is Crohn's disease? Is there a demographic component to Crohn's disease?
What do you mean?
Does it affect different races?
Bad colon related issues.
Okay, so that's not it's
No.
not like sickle cell anemia. Okay, all right, well, because to me it just sounds like some sort of new rap song,
No, it's
Sky Rizzy.
I know folks that have it, and it's really debilitating.
Okay,
It's
well,
frustrating.
yeah, with Crohn's, right, but it just seems.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sky getting dizzy on Sky Rizzy
Here you go.
in the club getting tizzy.
Oh man.
Anyway, here's more.
Thing that causes problems for people
Let me
when
ask
there
you-
is not anything.
Let me ask you something. Do you see your job as ending vaccine hesitancy, or do you see your job as telling the truth to the American people?
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that there is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things
So this is
out
that
there
same
in
clip.
science.
That's the same clip. And then here's another one. Let's see here. This is about autism. All right, I think this is the last one.
Predisposed to have an autistic child. Are you doing both?
Yeah, but Dana, you probably don't understand this because you're not a scientist. But genes
you're not
don't
either.
Genes don't cause epidemics.
I understand genes.
They can provide a
Epidemics.
vulnerability.
A
but they- but you
gene
need
provides
an environmental.
That's
exposure.
what I'm asking. Are you studying the
We're
environmental
looking
exposure?
at all the different environmental exposures, but your statement, you have been fooled. Your statement that this has been studied is not true. It's categorically
it is
not
considered,
true. Not for any of this stuff.
It is considered.
Considered by who?
By every scientist who has studied this.
That is not true. I can give you hundreds of scientists who have looked at this. So
on the one hand, do you understand why people aren't getting
Academy of Sciences
predisposed to have an?
So this has to do with autism. I'm trying to find out why autism is rising. Have you checked on people's DNA? And then he says, you probably don't understand this because you're not a scientist, but genes don't cause. Anyway, he goes on. And so, again, you look at because of people like Dana Bash. Dana Bash is the reason why last year when RFK came out and said, we think maybe one of the causes of autism is pregnant women taking Tylenol while they're pregnant. Okay? Now, that doesn't go far enough as far as I'm concerned. I tend to think it's the vaccines and the vaccine schedule, and I know RFK does too, but officially they're saying, hey, don't take Tylenol when you're pregnant. We think it's going to make autism. Because of people like Dana Bash, there were literally pregnant women making TikToks, taking Tylenol just because. Just saying, I'm now going to take Tylenol because I hate RFK and I hate Trump and they're a bunch of science-denying idiots. There were people, my goodness, I talked to a family member today, older family member who said that in the wake of the Fauci testimonies, there were people that started posting that are friends with more liberal people. There were some friends posting about how they wish they would have never taken the shot, and their friends were appalled. I believe in science. How dare you? Da 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 da. There are still people today because of people like Dana Bash that are totally in the dark. And so, yes, they're actively deceiving you. There really, in my opinion, needs to be some level of accountability, not just for Anthony Fauci, but for the people in the media that did what they did. There was a time, when you go back and you look, and I know we got to wrap on this segment, we do need to take a break, but there was a time when the initial outbreak was going on, we got about, a month into it, and they were saying that the hospitals were overcrowded in New York. We didn't know what we were going to do. They're overcrowded. And then they used footage from an Italian hospital that was overcrowded.
Yep.
And
that happened.
I said, that's an Italian. Once I found out I was like, well, that's not a mistake.
Yeah.
That's not a mistake in the media. The media, you just know from doing this show, like the way we do this show, which is not the best sourced show ever. I've put tweets up there before that are wrong. We sometimes have caught it in real time. Oh, that's not actually the quote or whatever. But if you're curating an actual story for the New York Times, there's no way to accidentally put in footage from a New York hospital that's really an Italian hospital. There's the only way to do it is intentionally doing it.
I remember when that happened, when that was put out, and the pictures looked weird, and I messaged a buddy of mine that works up at NYU Langone and just said, hey, look out your window right now, because he works in the operating rooms up there. I'm great. Like, are you seeing little, and I don't mean to minimize the topic, but I'm like, are you seeing 18-wheelers pulled up to the side of your hospital right now, basically like a mini morgue? And what's going on? And he's like, no. Now, this was March, I think, of 2020, March-ish time, March, April. He was like, no, what are you talking about? We hear a lot of stuff too, but no, that's not us. And then, a couple hours later, they're like, actually, those pictures were from, wherever. We're from Rome. There was so much misinformation coming out. And then for those producing and putting out the misinformation to call the people that questioned them as the authors of the misinformation was, to me, the biggest weird part of the whole thing. And we're hearing the term misinformation in hospitals all throughout that time period, and we're like, well, who wants to talk about the information yet, other than some statistics around who's on vents? Because that was really the defining thing for hospitals, was how many patients are in that have a confirmed diagnosis, how many patients are on vents, because we only have so many ventilators to go around, and then, what are we? Is that number going up or going down? I mean, I followed the reports for all the hospitals in this region every single day. It was one of the first things I looked at in the mornings was the ventilator reports. How many patients are on them? How many wings of the hospital have been, sectioned off and quarantined off for just patients on ventilators? And is that number going up or down? Because we're all sitting there wanting the country to reopen again. Can we just remind ourselves of a term that we used so many times? When are we going to reopen? When are we going to be able to go out to eat? When are we going to be able to take our kids to the movie theater? When are we going to be able to go to a ball game and sit by people in the stands without having a dadgum mask on? When are we going to be able to be citizens of this country without them thinking if we happen to clear our throat that we're not going to infect them, and vice versa? When are we going to get back to that? So this was one of the primary endpoints back then was how many people are on ventilators. And so then when that stuff comes out and you hear that it's misinformation, it's so frustrating because it's like the seed's already been planted. You can't really put the genie back in the box when that stuff comes out because enough people are already infected with the misinformation. Yeah. And then so then for mainstream folks like Dana Bash and all of her ilk to start talking to others, and I'm so glad RFK called her out on it. Like, y'all were the ones that were the authors of misinformation because politicians were telling you that's what you needed to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the swapping the videos was also not a new tactic. I mean, earlier in Trump's first administration, they tried to say that Trump had betrayed some of our Middle Eastern allies by showing them get obliterated, when in reality that video was from a munitions testing site in Kentucky. And it was all these explosions, and they tried to say that that's what happened. This was going on all the time. And again, you don't make that mistake by accident if you're in the press. That is intentional. You do that intentionally. Here's the last clip from RFK. He then goes on Fox News, and he talks about Lyme's disease.
Lyme disease that almost certainly came from these experiments that is now devastating our country. RSV that came from a laboratory, which is now the biggest killer of children in our country. And, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, which was a trauma for the whole globe. And all of those have been linked credibly to gain-of-function research. So it's something that with enormous cost and no proven benefits.
Gain-of-function research.
Yeah.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services is now saying on national TV that the U.S. government, or whoever's funding our gain-of-function, the U.S. government is responsible for Lyme's disease and RSV, and COVID came from a lab, and that the U.S. government did that too. He may not be saying that explicitly, but how many people have Lyme's disease that have had their lives destroyed because of it? And it's the government that did it. And now that's why people credibly think that alpha-gal syndrome, the allergy to meat that is now in ticks, and people finding ticks all over their property, is also something from the government, because they literally are treating us like sheep. We don't need the flock cameras, to know that. It's a long-standing operation that's been going on against this country. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about the surveillance state, as a matter of fact, and everything involved in it. Before we do go to break, I meant to do this at the top of the show, but I want to remind you that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. That's the Healing Veterans Project. You see the QR code on your screen. Scan that so that you can donate to get veterans life-enhancing red light panels that have been prescribed to them by a doctor, but the VA will not cover it. The VA won't cover the red light therapy, but they will cover things like opioids and Vicodin or whatever, Percocet. And so I want you to go check this out. I'm on the board of this great organization, healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us. And I want you, if you want to donate monthly or one time, scan the promo code on your screen. I'm sorry, the QR code on your screen, and then you see my email there, paul@healingveteransproject.us. I want you to email me if you've got a business and you want to help us, meaning if you want us to set up something for your customers at their point of sale where they can donate $1 at checkout, or if you know of anybody that's got a business that is a retail business like that, email me and we will make this happen. We can even pay an affiliate marketing fee to the business to make sure that they don't incur any cost by setting the software up or anything like that. Paul@healingveteransproject.us. That's Paul@healingveteransproject.us. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got a great rest of the show for you here on Live from America TV, as well as the Paul Harrell Program YouTube. We'll be back here in just a moment.
Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier. And when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about, 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. All right, so we're going to move on. We were going to move on from this Fauci COVID situation, but then this just dropped. I just saw this during the break, so I just felt like it's a good bookend to what's going on. Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show being asked about this whole situation. Listen to this.
Is everything better? Is everything funner? Is everything more awesome? Like, how do you kind of view this year versus maybe the years of the past?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay.
Okay. Like gotta love that guy. Okay. Like that absolute coward, Tony Fauci. Absolute coward.
Yeah.
Hey, it's back, baby. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 111
You
times.
got a pardon and you're in front and you pleaded over 100 times at the White House? What are you scared of, Tony?
Yeah.
I thought you were the science.
Yeah.
I thought you were I am science, and you get up there and you can't answer a question?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And how much time did the network spend at that? How much time did they spend on my responses every week, on my vaccination status, on Taylor and Travis's wedding? Did they do even a minute? Did they do even a minute on Tony Fauci?
No, I don't think I've heard anything.
I bet they didn't.
But on that note...
Then there was another scandal this offseason, too.
Is everything better? Is everything funner?
That is the type of... When you've broken through the sports ball, right? And good, look, I love football. I'm not an NFL guy, but I love football. Who doesn't love football in the South? But when you have crossed the Rubicon into the sports podcast world, and now you're getting that audience... that is, let's just be honest, most of them are not that engaged on the intricacies of what's going on politically. When you've broken through that narrative, now it's dinner table conversation. Anthony Fauci is a criminal who's committed crimes against humanity. Pretty incredible.
I tell my kids all the time that, and this is not meant to, overinflate their egos in any way, but it's just to encourage them that they are. I tell them, you guys, you're lions. You're not sheep. And people like Aaron Rodgers and what he's saying, like he's standing up as a lion among sheep, and he did this for years throughout the pandemic, and it's so refreshing now, and not as a "see, I told you so" or "well, guess what, I was right." He's not. That's not what he's doing.
Right.
But he's just really calling a spade, and this is the kind of generation we need to be raising, is kids that don't just go along with it, that ask appropriate questions appropriately, and have Aaron Rodgers as role models instead of the ones that were calling him out like they were. I mean, it's just and I think back to there'll be times where I'll get private messages on social media and things, and they'll say, "Hey, I really appreciate you speaking out about this issue or that. I'm a business owner. I'm a local dentist here in town. I'm a banker."
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons why I think Rob was like, I think Eric Haynes would be a great addition to the show, reoccurring guest on the show, was because of you being willing to speak out in your personal from your personal perspective on social media and things like that. So
well, it comes from a place of humility and a place of just a need for objectivity in an inobjective, or an era where objectivity is so lacking and balance is so lacking. And so, like I said, I would get these private messages from folks who would say, "You really like a voice for me. I'd love to say what you say, but I can't because, again, I'm a banker in town. I'm a lawyer in town. I don't want to offend half the people that I might be representing, or I might be filling their cavities or doing their banking or whatever their occupation. I'm a restaurant owner. I don't want people not coming to my restaurant because I speak out for these things. And so thank you for being a voice for those of us that don't speak out." And that's so true to this situation, is that you have to have people that can speak out like Aaron Rodgers did at his level in sports, and that have the I guess, don't feel like that they're burdened by their occupation. And I don't let my occupation burden me and keep me from saying things that I feel passionate about. And that, to me, is what, afflicts so many people in our culture, is that they're just, we came out of like this woke cancel culture, and people still, and they may never be feel like they're okay with speaking their minds really fully again. But I just noticed that for so many years during that era where, it was like my physician buddies couldn't say anything because, the CEO of the hospital would fire them, or, whatever, or people not thinking that their customers would be loyal to him anymore if they spoke out. And so you just had everybody just huddled into corners as sheep for a really, really long time. And you see interviews like this where Aaron Rodgers is like this was the whole point of saying, you guys were so worried about me and what I said, every word that came out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth during the time, and then you guys would just jump on him and blast him. And it gets right back to what RFK was saying about Dana Bash. Dana Bash and all of the idiots in her realm and circle of influence and CNN would be the ones that would have been piling on top of Aaron Rodgers and everyone like him. And me and so many others who would have just said, can we really think through this a little bit, and that it doesn't make sense to have our children vaccinated? Like, we've never done this before in our lives where we have encouraged vaccinating children to protect the elderly. That's not science. That's not healthcare. That's never been the way we've ever done it in history. So can we just pause real quick before we do some really drastic things to a generation of kids and make teachers have to teach behind masks just to be able to go, and for school boards members to, send people out of school board meetings in handcuffs because they stood up and said, hey, why are you guys doing this to our kids? Yeah. Can we please have a conversation about this? No. We're voting. Get out. Come arrest it. How many videos did we see of that?
Yeah. Insane. Insane. That is a good bookend for that segment. And I know I didn't intend for that to go that long, but hey, that's the benefits of having 2 hours here for the show. So now we come to our new segment. It is now time for the Fourth Amendment funeral. The Fourth Amendment funeral. So, do you guys remember, this would have been, I think, back during Trump's first administration, we heard all of this talk about 5G technology. You remember this, Eric? I'm sure you remember 5G.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now all of our phones are 5G, apparently. I don't know about you, though. I haven't exactly noticed anything is faster. We were told 5G is going to I'm pretty sure things are loading about the same speed that they were. I don't know if we're not tapping into the power of it, if it's being reserved. I don't know anything about that. I know there's something with the different spectrums that it's broadcast or whatever. Well, so on this segment of Fourth Amendment Funeral, we're going to talk now about 6G.
Ooh.
6G. Now 6G is coming. And President Trump said something out of the Oval Office the other day that raised my eyebrows a little bit about what is 6G actually going to be used for. And here's what he said.
So we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done, and now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how far I get it? I like the cameras the old days. So they just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. You're not gonna. But I tell you, it's so the 6 is coming, huh? So we're into 6G.
So whether or not that's exactly how the science works,
is off the cuff.
There are people that are saying that the off-cuff remark is actually more closer to reality than you think.
Yeah.
That the 6G technology is going to give them the ability, the power, which also, by the way, this makes me think about the data centers and everything else, to actually see through walls, see through your home, see your biometrics in a way that we really even can't. I don't even think we can comprehend that kind of technology at this point. But again, the segment's called Fourth Amendment Funeral because in a society that has that, could you use that technology for good? Yeah, I mean, I remember the Star Trek episodes where they'd have a tricorder and they could literally just scan your body. They know exactly what's wrong with you, medically speaking, immediately. Okay, yeah, that'd be great. But in terms of the fact that we're putting cameras on every block and how long before, I mean, literally, you have a right to privacy, and the technology is to the point where your privacy is being violated. Your privacy is going to be violated even further, and it all comes down to what's your expectation of privacy. And you and I both know, in the hands of a fallen man, any man might be a great person today, but then tomorrow you have another person in that job that takes advantage of the technology to enslave us or whatever. Just all of the above. We were all warning about this potentially happening well before COVID. We were all right about that. We might not have predicted the exact mechanism, healthcare. Although Reagan always said if they get the foot in the door with socialized medicine, it's going to bleed out everywhere else. To the point where doctors. We haven't gotten to the point where doctors don't have the right to practice where they want to. But what do you guys think about this 6G? Now, whether or not this is correct or not, this is why this particular post with a really weird avatar, I know, forgive me, it stuck out. 5G and 6G aren't just faster speeds, they're the radar that sees right through you, referencing this, that this is, he says it's not that TikTok loads faster, that's not what we're doing this for. Millimeter waves and terahertz turned into a weapon. They map your body in real time, read vital signs. Now, one of the people in the Trump administration that has been speaking out against this in various forms has been RFK. Now, he definitely did it before he got in office. He talked about that that we don't have the same frequency regulations that Europe does. For example, and he said this on a podcast where whatever the frequency is that can cook human flesh or start to kind of irradiate us to the point, our frequency limits are back it off just a hair. Here's where it's obviously detrimental to your body, and we're going to back it off a little bit. Whereas Europe is allegedly much lower on that threshold. Now, you were telling me, and I don't know if I don't have the clip, but you were telling me that you heard RFK talk about this recently, Eric.
I'm pretty sure it was in reference to, keeping this technology away from young kids. And I think he even made a special note for little girls. And I don't know necessarily what the full point of what he was trying to do, except for their reproductive health. But I was definitely taken aback by it, just because I haven't heard that much about 6G. Mm-hmm. Really, have you? I mean,
no, I haven't.
This is really kind of the first that I'm starting to hear about it.
But I put it on the radar because no pun intended, I wanted you guys to have this on your radar. This is just one of the many examples where we can say, we did a whole show on flock cameras last week, and where we can say, hey, look, we've got to start speaking out about this. We've got to start being vocal about this. I know it is one of the administration's goals, with the Project Stargate and the data centers and everything else. I get that. That's kind of the price, if you will, of backing certain candidates and everything else. But that doesn't mean that we're going to not speak out against this stuff going in local communities and everything else. This is America, and if you don't like something going into your locality, speak up, get organized, and fight it with every right that you have left while you still have it. We say this all the time with the Second Amendment. Right now, I'm exercising my Second Amendment right, okay? When I carry open or concealed, I'm exercising my Second Amendment right, okay? When's the last time any of us have exercised our Fourth Amendment rights? And I don't even really know how you do it anymore because we're voluntarily carrying around these cell phones in our pockets. So, maybe that is on us in a lot of ways The rise of the neo-Amish could be a real thing where people just devolve their technology. I know there are some parents that are already doing this. There are some parents that tell their kids, and I don't know if I agree with lying to them, but some parents will just turn their wireless router off, and they'll say, hey, the router's not working today. We'll have to get Dad to fix it. And what that does is it basically decomputerizes their whole house, and all of a sudden the kids are now reading books, drawing, outside, playing, drinking out of the hose, or whatever. And so some people are already choosing to do this. And by doing that, you're actually exercising a degree of privacy. The danger is with the 6G technology, man, if that really is true, and you're talking about, biometric data and that sort of thing, my goodness. I mean, I don't even know I don't know what the future looks like when it comes to that. But it's like every sci-fi movie you've ever seen, negatively speaking, on steroids.
Well, we have to keep in mind, too, that every year we are advancing in technology as much or more as we did cumulatively the past 10. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our exponential percentage of technological growth right now, is that every year we grow and we figure out more than we did the past 10 years combined. So think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And let that sink in. So when you start talking about a long-term plan, I mean, I'm thinking right now as a father of 4 with 4 young kids, I'm thinking about colleges and vehicles and all those things. And part of me pushes back on myself a little bit and is like, well, are you foolishly preparing for something that may not even be a course of reality?
Yeah.
I mean, are my kids going to go to a higher learning teaching institution, brick and mortar college like I went to and like my wife went to? Do we even need to be talking about that? And I'm not just saying difference in trade schools versus versus the college system, but it's like, will that even be that much of a thing? What is AI going to do in the next 4 to 5 years? I mean, really, what could the future look like? And I always get back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking
hoverboards, baby.
I'm always thinking about the fact that Marty McFly went into 2015 way ahead of where we are now. So maybe it's going to slow down a little bit, but sheesh, who knows?
So what you see on your screen there, I just brought it up because what you're saying, there's a website out there called degreefree.com. They don't sponsor my show or anything like that, but it's a fascinating, if you want to dive in, it's fascinating. Go check out the resources they have on their website, because they're basically have already pronounced this idea that college will be irrelevant, in 10 years or so. It says custom career plans for your child. Give your child a clear, step-by-step career plan that's easy to follow, no guessing, no stress, just clear steps. Helping young adults build successful careers. It says here, your child deserves a clear, actionable path to success. Planning their future is confusing, stressful, and full of pressure to make the right choice. It shouldn't be this hard to help your child succeed. Your child needs clear next steps, not more stress. Together, we'll give your child a clear path so that you can relax. It says 2 custom solutions to career success. They just got this whole thing where you can get started, and having discussions about, when your child becomes, kind of like a young teenager or something like that. Like, what do you want to do? Like, you don't necessarily have to go this traditional route. What do you want your work day schedule to be like? Like, what's important to you? Do you, and this website has has plans for this idea of, because of technology, everything is looking totally different in terms of, hey, you can't be an adult until you're 22 years old, 23 years old, and graduate college. And it really kind of is going back to the way I think we're that may be one of the benefits of this.
Yeah.
One of the silver linings in this is, hey, look, I mean, our great-grandfathers grew up really fast when they were 17, 18 years, or our grandfathers grew up really fast when they were 17, 18 years old, had to jump out of planes and go fight a war. Yeah. I don't want a war, okay? I don't want a war, but they were able to do things. They were adults, okay? A lot, and we've got this extended adolescence that is a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
And then not to mention the fact that so many parents lament that they let their kids go to college in the first place. You know, they end up realizing, like, oh my gosh, because the colleges are so terrible now.
I just paid for them to party for 4 years.
Or, yeah, paid for them to party. And that was like, that's always been a thing.
Yeah.
But giving them over into the hands of the enemy that's actively challenging them on everything, but not just like, hey, you know, how do you know there's a God? It's like way worse than that. It's trying to convince them that wicked behaviors are actually good and virtuous. I mean, it's so much worse than it was on so many different levels. So, something to think about there. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I gotta say, my wife graduated from the journalism school at Mizzou in Columbia, Missouri, and she still remembers to this day one of her professors stopping the class at one point very early on in as she was just getting started, and they literally stopped everyone and said, "Hey, how many Republicans or folks in here would you say are very conservative Republican students here?" And wanted a showing of hands, because they basically said, this probably isn't the industry for you.
Wow.
If it is. So we want you to go ahead and know that in advance and consider rethinking your future here in this program, because there's just not a lot of folks like you here in this industry as you go out and you start working at magazines and
you're not going to be able to get a job. I mean, that's actually
right.
In a way, that's a charitable thing to say to these kids.
You're going to be going through this program. You're going to want to be going out with your friends. You're going to be graduating, wanting internships, and just so you know, if you're a Republican conservative out here, you're not going to think like anybody else in this industry, and they're probably going to kick you out, and you're not going to get a job.
Just so you know, if you have integrity.
Yeah.
There's no room for you here.
Yeah. Dana Bash. Well, guess what? You need to rethink your life.
Yeah.
That really happened. I mean, crazy.
Incredible. In other news, this just came up while we were at break too. From SCOTUS Wire, the Supreme Court has issued its judgment in the birthright citizen case. The court held that children born in the U.S. to parents presently unlawfully or temporarily are citizens at birth. And then it says this: despite President Trump's announcement, the United States did not seek a rehearing. So remember, a couple of weeks ago, the president said they were going to seek a rehearing based on the billboards that were advertising bringing your kids in here and becoming citizens. And so
those hospitals down in Texas.
So what happened? What happened at the Justice Department, and yet Todd Blanche is now going to be confirmed.
Yeah.
Because we have this story, Liberty Daily, from via the Epoch Times. Blanche formally rescinds anti-weaponization fund ahead of his confirmation vote. This was just last week that President Trump was once again commending the idea that J6ers needed access to this weaponization fund because of what the government did to them. And now we hear that Acting Attorney General, in order to make a deal with John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche issued an order on August 2nd, formally rescinding President Donald Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund ahead of his nomination hearing. Quote, "My team and I have met with committee members and senators over the past several weeks and addressed any concerns or outstanding questions. We have enjoyed good, faithful discussions, and as a result of the following order, an update with regard to on the May IRS settlement," he said, "of the Department of Justice fund created to compensate victims of weaponization and lawfare, the court deemed it to be improper. The order comes as the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee is set to hold an executive business." So obviously, I know the courts did what they did. They don't want President Trump's tax records were leaked by the IRS. Of course, the IRS. Hey, that lets you know something about the IRS. Even the President of the United States can't trump the IRS when it comes to. I mean, me and my wife were talking about something the other day. We're debating doing a little startup rental business for like yard games and things like that for kids, like a Nerf gun kit. Nobody wants to go and drop $400 for their kid's birthday party to have Nerf guns, but anyway, it's a thing. We've just been talking about it, and there's a few other people that have done stuff like this, and she actually talked to somebody who's got a successful version of this down in Georgia, And she said, be careful because you definitely need insurance because people are going to sue you for anything, and you got to be wary of that. But she also talked about some IRS problems, that there was some category that they got wrong. They got the wrong type of insurance or something. I don't exactly remember what it was, but they ended up owing like $20,000. And she said, and we called ahead. We called to the IRS. We asked somebody. They said, yes, what you've got going is fine. This is okay. And then it wasn't okay. So when they eventually talked to the next IRS person after they have been given the fine or whatever it was, they say, yes, were you listening to the automated voiceover while you're on hold? And it says that we are not liable for any advice that is given to you. We're not liable for any of that. So this is an organization literally set up to not be accountable to anybody, even the president, when they leak his tax returns. So that should tell you something right there, that the IRS does need to be abolished, and we really need to get back to what we were talking about during the first 5 months of Trump's second term, which is getting rid of the IRS altogether. But anyway, make of these data points what you will. I can sit here and say that I think it's great that Todd Blanche exposed the SPLC for essentially false flagging the entire country. That's fantastic. Didn't really see that one coming. But I just still don't entirely trust this guy at all. And I thought the anti-weaponization, they can't handle, people like Tillis and Cornyn can't handle the anti-weaponization fund because they don't believe the J6ers were mistreated. They believe the fake narrative. They are beholden to the fake narrative. And that, of course, goes, I think that's alive right today. That's why you have these two pipe bomb narratives. You have the pipe bomb that it's the autistic kid, the black autistic kid. Then you have the pipe bomb narratives like, no, this was a much larger coordinated operation set up by the Intel oligarchy in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah.
First off.
Yeah, sorry.
Let me know when I can schedule the Nerf War birthday party.
Yes.
I've always envisioned having one of the Gatling guns,
yes.
Nerf guns that I can just literally fire off about 100 rounds.
Yeah, okay. You're giving up some school shooter vibes.
Into some, little Nerf, into some children. But I can totally see how the liability insurance for those headshots.
Yeah,
it's like he's like.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean,
I've seen some good videos, man.
It's a really neat idea.
We're in. You just let us know when we can schedule that birthday party.
You got it.
We've got a 7-year-old that would be all about that Nerf Gatling gun,
dude. And I honestly, there's other things too, like badminton and croquet and everything else. But like the Nerf gun, I was like, dude, that'll be out the entire time. You'll probably need multiple versions of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm just like.
Yeah,
I would love to acquire those and play with them myself for sure.
Yeah,
because the Gatling gun and the Nerf weapons. So when I was growing up, I'm sure you remember this too. Like the Nerf guns were few and far between. There was the Nerf bow and arrow.
I remember it had one of those.
That was really accurate.
Very, very accurate.
The sight on the original Nerf bow and arrow.
Yeah,
and I shot my sister's eye out with that. I scratched my sister's cornea with a Nerf bow and arrow, and she had to walk around with a patch for like 2 weeks.
Sorry.
No. It's actually comical because when I was very, very little, I remember I was at my grandparents' house. I remember this, and my grandparents when I was very young, they lived in Blytheville. This was back before Blytheville became what it is now, and there's a lot of people that don't want to live in Blytheville now. And I got a cork gun, right? Got a cork gun.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that. They got it out. They literally lectured me, Paul, you got to be careful with this. It's the first thing I did is I shot my sister in the eye. Scratched her cornea. Had to have the patch, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward years later in the 90s when the Nerf bow and arrow comes out. It wasn't the first thing I did, but eventually I call her name. Hey, she look up, boom, right in the eye, right? Okay, twice, patch, right? Years later, I'm in high school, and something happens. This was not intentional at all, but I threw a football at her. So, I mean, it was intentional in that I did throw it at her. But I thought she was going to catch it. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, right in the eye, scratched cornea again.
Jeez. Poor Patch. Poor sister Patch Harrell.
Poor sister. Yeah, Patches. You should have called her Patches. I don't think it was the same eye
Harrell.
I don't think it was the same eye every single time, but that's a real story.
God bless that era, man. I grew up with Super Soakers in the summer.
Yes.
And then Nerf guns in the rest of the year. But a lot of them were, very single shot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'd get a double barrel
Yeah.
and you'd have 2 shots, but nowadays with these, I'm buying these canisters full of the Nerf Nerf bullets, and they just fire off so fast.
Yeah.
You hear the little engine thing from their some of them are battery powered now.
Yeah,
so they're like, it's so fun.
That's awesome.
So fun.
Yeah.
Get some kids.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I wonder if they actually make turrets. If you could set up turrets around where motion sensor, you could have a lot of fun with that these days.
Tommy gun. That's the thing I was trying to say. I feel like they're all Tommy guns now.
My Tommy gun. What's that?
But my Tommy gun don't.
Yeah, that's right. My Tommy gun don't. All right.
Get down on your knees and tell me you love it.
What was the name of that movie? That fictional movie?
Angels with Filthy Souls.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
And then Home Alone 2 is like Angels with Even Filthier Souls.
Oh man, I saw a really dark. You know what? It's not July anymore.
She says you had some dough for me.
It's not July anymore, but so what we'll do Christmas in August real quick. Because I'm really, by the way, I'm just totally geared toward fall right now. This cooler weather that Arkansas is getting, I think I told you I'm now watching hunting videos on YouTube at night. It's now time.
Wow, look at you. You're getting ready.
Yeah. So, but I saw a very dark take. I think it's probably more evident now, the psychological operations that Hollywood runs on people, the humiliation rituals that Hollywood runs on people. Somebody on TikTok the other day exposed one about Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, no way.
Well, yeah.
He's great now, by the way.
Yeah. Now, this is not about him personally. This is about what Hollywood did.
Oh, yeah. And his parents?
What Hollywood did specifically to us. Okay, so we all go watch Home Alone, right, as kids.
Yeah.
Even though my parents at the time were mortified about how disrespectful he was to his parents. I would have gotten so many spankings if I'd talked to my parents a tenth of what.
Every year we go through when he's on the step going up to the upstairs and he says, I am upstairs, dummy.
Yeah.
When he's talking to his mom.
Ooh.
Every year it's a thing in our house where the record stops and scratches. We literally push pause. And I remember growing up when my grandma would hear that when we'd be watching it at her house, she'd be like, don't you ever.
Yeah.
Ever think you can get away with saying that to your mother, don't you?
Exactly. So we're all watching this film. We love it. It turns into this hilarious thing. Here's Macaulay Culkin, and then pretty much the next film he was in was My Girl, where all of these people, young kids, go see it.
Yeah.
Because Macaulay Culkin's in it, and Hollywood makes us watch this kid get murdered to death by bees. And this lady brought this up, and I was like, that's exactly right. It was some sort of weird. I'm sorry. I feel like that it traumatized a ton of people.
Yeah.
At the end of My Girl, when Macaulay Culkin's in the casket and everything else, and I just think it was some sort of weird, sick. I'm sorry. I know this may be too conspiratorial for some. I think it was some sort of weird, sick psyop against the kids.
It wasn't just My Girl, though. Remember, it was before that when he was the good son. He was in that scary movie called The Good Son, where he was sick and twisted in the head, had killed his baby brother, and then his cousin, Elijah Wood, comes over to their place, and then he tries to kill him and the mom. And at the end of the movie, the mom has to drop him off a cliff. Do you not see that?
I
Good
have
Son?
never seen
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm off on a tangent.
No, that is.
You're so right.
I have never seen that.
The other side of Macaulay Culkin's movies, after and before.
It's like they had to take something that was good.
You had the cute Uncle Buck, Macaulay Culkin, right? with John Candy, and was just like so great. And then you had the Home Alone thing, which came after that. That's awesome. But these other movies were just totally messed up.
Yep.
The kids.
You gotta take something that is regarded as good and then rug pull everybody and somehow demoralize people.
Yeah.
And that's what Hollywood does. They do it way more now than they used to, but that's just the way it is. All right, now folks, it's time for our next segment for today. Our news segment called Borderline Insanity. So for today's inaugural segment, Borderline Insanity, we're going to go to Mark Wayne Mullen, where Steve Day says, what exactly are we doing here? This is from The Blaze. DHS Secretary Mullen on immigration. Take a listen to what he says.
If we're looking to grow our economy, then we need to look at making more permanent solutions on this and getting the work, not the work, but the employers involved in the system. In order to do that, though, that takes coordination between labor. Our unions still have a say in this, guys. We got to get labor involved. We got to get industry involved. And we got to fill out where the holes are created, because this narrative that it steals American jobs is true in some industries. It's not true for all industries. And we need to pay attention and be sensitive to that as we move forward, because it is America first. We want to take care of Americans first. It's our economy. It's our homeland. But there's a way to utilize labor where we're not having the participation rate we need to, and we can plug those holes.
No thanks. I'd like an immigration moratorium. I just want to restate that. I want an immigration moratorium. I want an immigration moratorium, an immigration moratorium. We've got to do it. This is this gets into the whole H-1B discussion and all of the fraud there. We're somehow being told that we still need this to happen, and yet we've let in 20 million under Biden. We had 30. According to estimates, 50 million people here potentially, and look, I mean, it's one of those things. We have to have a full stop. We have to take a stock in what's actually happened to our country in order to save it, and that takes really tough decisions. But not this type of this is the type of thing that is trying to pacify industries that don't want to don't want this to end. And I know the other side is like, well, you want higher prices. Look, how many people have gone on the air to try to justify the war in Iran, saying if you can't handle gas prices being high, then you're not a real look. That we're not a real country, or we're not a first world. Okay, all right. Well, why can't that you would have a lot easier time selling people if they said no, not Middle East wars. Okay, we're fatigued with that. We have Middle East fatigue. No, but in order to correct the abuses and usurpations that have been foisted on the American people by politicians and corporations, we are going to have a period of pain. And the overall goal is to get prices down. But look, people would, in order to save the country, the majority of Americans, or the people in the Republican base for sure, that know just how bad it is, and that the illegal immigration and legal H-1B immigration, what it's done to our jobs, they would be much more willing to sacrifice if you put it in those terms. This is about securing the country for your kids. This is your posterity. This is about the nation of the United States. It would go over much better than I think what the current messaging is. Now, that being said, or do you want to respond to that? That being said, we do have here's a few reaction to that. So Mark Wayne Mullen on August 1st says, no amnesty for illegal aliens ever. We are a nation of laws. If you are illegally present in the United States of America, you will be detained and deported. Orrin McIntyre says, yesterday you revealed that not only are we not doing mass deportations, now there are some interesting new numbers about how many people have been deported, and we'll get to that here in just a second. He says, but we naturalize more people than we've deported. And Mark Wayne Mullen did say that. Or at least he talked about how many people have been naturalized. Biden let in at least 20 million, and you haven't even removed 10% of those people. Forget the 30-plus million who were already here. If this were 4 months into the administration, that might be understandable, but we are now staring down the midterms that will likely be lost because we're fighting another foreign war, and the likelihood of deportations ramping up if Dems win the House is approaching zero. Yes, the Trump administration is better on immigration than Dems. Yes, it's even better than any GOP administration we likely would have gotten under any other candidate. But he says it's still a total disaster. He says, get rid of this guy and give me the most ruthless lunatic you could find. Stop making excuses and get the job done. That's what Orrin McIntyre said, who's also a colleague of Steve Deace. Now, in other news, Andrew Colvett talked about this. This was a viral tweet that went out about he's claiming that he spoke to sources at DHS. A new report on deportations for the last 12 months just dropped, which includes all deportation flights, commercial and governmental planes. And they're saying now the total alien force of departures is 1.4 million, over 1.4 million, and that the last 7-day average of forced removals was 4,291 per day, believed to be a new all-time high. And that does not include self-deportations. Now, I will say this. I know personally of one person who has self-deported. I wasn't like personal friends with this person, but I did know of him. He was in this community, and he self-deported with the hope of trying to come back legally. So it is happening. At least I know of one instance that I verified that it has happened. Sundance, the last refuge, response to this news says, good. However, we need a minimum of 10,000 to 15,000 per day and a target goal of at least 1 million deportations and removals per month. Deport 1 million a month while canceling all H-1Bs, and average unavoidable costs per American drop by 5% in the 6-month term. Housing, insurance, and energy prices dropping first. Meaning the affordability crisis that is a real thing, you can actually... I know what I just said about, if we had to make sacrifices, but there are some minds out there that suggest, no, actually, if we did do this the right way, you would have housing prices be dropping, rent would be dropping, insurance, energy prices, something to think about. And it just goes to show you that we can do this. We just have to have the will to do it in a larger capacity than what we're currently doing. So, immigration moratorium, by the way, all the way. Immigration moratorium, and then deportations. So, and on that, so Orrin did update, I think, after these new numbers came out, reported numbers. Once again, these are better numbers than we would have received under any other administration, but they are still a disaster. Let's be very generous and assume triple the self-deportations. We're still nowhere close to removing half the people Biden let in during his term. I mean, it really goes to show you what a gargantuan problem, to tackle. It really is. I am not saying that this is easy at all, but we got scared because Renee Good hit somebody hit an officer with her car and got killed, and then Alex Preddy scuffled with the officers, and we all know how that went down, right? I mean, it looked bad, and we just pulled out, though, right? It's like, okay, this is too much. And I gotta tell you, if I were doing this, and again, that would never happen, but I would assume stuff like that, you would pencil those events into a mass deportation. It's going to get messy because the 20 million and 50 million, the open border, that's what was messy. That's what's extreme. That's your message. Your message is, what was extreme? It's what's been done to this country for the last 50 years. So the remedy is going to be extreme. And honestly, the deportation aspect of it is the most. It's actually the softest remedy. It's the softest remedy. If you look at if you're talking historically speaking. So we can be black pill bulimics. We don't have to black pill here. We can regurgitate the black pill, and for that, Mr. Optimist himself, Eric Haynes, ladies and gentlemen. What do you got?
I'm fine with you black pilling on mass deportations. I really am. I mean, we feel and see what an open border policy of the 4 years of the Biden administration, I'm looking for the right word here, on just like exploded issues that had been building for years. I mean, it's not like, I mean, they can call Obama the deporter in chief, but like there were issues. There's been, you know, major issues over the last number of decades. But I mean, we're talking about like a 30, 40-year problem, not just the past 8. But we just saw the problems explode during the Biden administration. A wide open border, thousands and thousands of people coming in every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. So you just, no nation, no country can handle that. You can't. Mm-hmm. You don't have a nation. If you continue down that path, it's just.
That's exactly right.
So here we are.
Whether to have a country or not a country, or or an economic zone. I mean, that's what's going on right now, and that's the debate, and that debate is being had in a lot, mainly within the Republican Party at this point, right? Yeah. Of like to how quick do we do this? How ruthless do we do this?
And some areas of certain cities and certain sanctuary cities and a lot of the big cities where a lot of those migrants really, really swelled and focused their attention as far. And look at the situations now. Those folks are on the streets calling for Sharia law and everyone in America to be converted to Muslim faith and all the Free Palestine organizations. And I mean, they are congregating and gathering in mass in places now. So we're watching this play out, and it's not good. It's sad, actually.
Yeah, clearly make the argument that you could start with Muslim deportations, and also banning their immigration. You could start there, but a total immigration moratorium is what's going on. So this happened over the weekend. There was news about we were going to attack Iran again. It was going to be the biggest attack since World War II. President Trump then on August 1st said the USA is locked and loaded, ready to go against the Islamic Republic of Iran at levels of military terror, strength, and power not seen since World War II. Despite this, we've just been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries to hold off. Now, keep that in mind, Eric, other Middle Eastern countries, to hold off any attack in that the perimeters of a deal have been agreed to. This would include the immediate, complete, and total opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. Based on this request, I have agreed for the future benefit of the world and likewise the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. The country of Israel joins me in this commitment. Get to work, everybody, and get it done. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so we had that, and then after he made that post, he was on Air Force One, and he said this.
People that would like me to just do it. And there's another group of people that does not want me to do it.
Mr. President, does Iran have a deadline to come to an agreement?
No, we'll just see how it is. We're ready to go anytime we want. Would I rather make a deal? I'm not looking to kill people. Because people die, a lot of people die, and we don't want that. So they asked us, Iran specifically, but the other three said I asked Saudi Arabia, the king. I said, the crown prince. I said, what would you rather do? Would you rather have us do this or not? And they said, we would much prefer a deal as opposed to an attack. Because you don't know where these attacks lead. I mean, will they be flooded with people pouring into their country and disaster? People that would like me to just do it.
All right, so he's obviously articulating what most of us know is going on behind the scenes, which is, it's a give and take jockeying position. And then he mentions other countries. Now, before we get into that, this was the earlier this morning. He says Iranian leadership is unbelievably duplicitous. Duplicitous. They ask for a meeting. Some would say talks begin with more scheduled in the immediate future And then they say openly and proudly that they're not having any discussions, that nothing is being talked about, and they're only dealing with Oman. They then go on to give their usual blather in saying the Strait of Hormuz will be operated powerfully by them when it is already completely controlled by the United States Navy and our blockade, or as some say, the United States wall of steel. Nothing gets through to Iran unless we want it to, and nothing will get through unless a deal or total surrender is accomplished. Whether Iran wants to admit it or not, we are, in fact, talking of a solution to a problem that they have caused for decades. He goes on, it is very simple. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. Now, I don't have this pulled, but he later talked about how, there are still talks ongoing, but this is the same pattern that we've been through for the last 5 months, which is the same deal. And again, the topography hasn't changed, the cards haven't changed. It is what it is. It's like to me, it's just like on loop. It's repeat over and over. Now, there is a report I've seen several places that this attack was ready to go. And Mario Nawfal says that Israel was apparently supposed to join in on the U.S. strikes on Iran last night before Trump nixed it. That's according to 2 U.S. officials who spoke to N12. Israel reportedly told the U.S. that if the attack did not strike Iranian regime targets and sites tied to Iran's economy, that there was no point in striking at all. Trump called off the strikes, says after persuasion from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, with some saying Saudi even threatened. Now, some say, but he did say he is confirming, Trump did confirm in his own words that he did talk to the Saudis. Says that some are saying that Saudi even threatened to dump U.S. treasuries if they went ahead with it. I've seen another report saying Saudi said, this is fine, but if Iran, in response, touches any one of our oil fields, we don't want this. We're not willing to sacrifice Saudi infrastructure because Iran's into the big missiles now, right? They're into the big boy missiles now,
right?
Not just the drones. So he posted last night saying that the U.S. was locked and loaded anyway. So it's obviously still a very difficult situation, and it is, unless we have some next gen weapon or whatever, it is a quagmire.
Yeah. I saw a panel the other day that had 4 people on it debating whether or not another mother of all bombs, an MOAB, would penetrate deep enough into this mountain to be able to do the job that's needed, because the bad guys are so deep in the earth.
Yeah.
So that was the analysis of this 4-person panel. Yeah. Like, will a Moab go deep enough to kill them all? Into this mountain. It's frustrating that this is the analysis that is the 24-hour news cycle. And
that's all anybody talks about.
And what they talk about is just the minutia of every type of munition and ordnance and all this stuff. It's just it gets to be, because this getting back to a point we've talked about before. Like, this isn't a war, Paul. This is not a war. This is not good guys lined up versus bad guys. And I'm not saying it's been like that for many, 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 many years. But, Trump has this almost impossible task of just going back and forth on a daily basis, basically saying, like, hey, do you think it'd be the right move now? And he's got to call all these other countries. Like, what do you think we should do? Should we try to strike it? Even though these people are completely insane. The Iranians and the Iranian leadership are completely insane.
Well, it's by design.
And it is. And
they're projecting
insanity. The war side of the Iranians has no real communication with the administrative side of the nation of Iran. And no matter what, it's like when they put that stuff on paper, we all commented. We sat around here and we're like, that's not worth the paper that it's written, that the signatures are on. Nothing good is gonna come from that. That doesn't mean anything. There's no weight behind that. They're just gonna flail when they possibly can get some drones or can get some missiles out from their silos without getting hit, and we're just gonna keep playing this game. And it's just going to keep going on and on and on. And that's a problem, because the public starts to just get annoyed by it.
It feels like an endless war.
It's just endless.
It's not.
And we're dominating. It's not. I mean, I know we've lost some great soldiers, and I I feel horrible that has happened, but we are just absolutely, decimating what we do and what we hit without really that much of a response at all. I mean, we'll go in and do all these, strikes and blow all this stuff up, and they'll lob a bomb over to one of the other neighboring Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah. We have
to try to go after one of our bases where some of our soldiers are.
But our bases have taken a lot of hits.
Yeah.
I mean, we
and that's about all they can do.
Right.
Try to send a drone through, and maybe it'll get through the iron domes of whatever.
We're according to some reports, and again, who knows? I don't even know if this is true, because I don't trust what the mainstream media says about what's happening domestically. But depending on who you read, we've lost significant bases, and we're pulling troops out of bases. And, I get that we have conventionally superior firepower, and yet they still have drones. They still have missiles. They're prepared for the long game, and we're prepared for the long game. Although we did have Jennifer. What's the foreign news correspondent over there at Fox?
Jennifer Griffin.
Yeah, she came out over the weekend and was like, there are reports that we don't have enough Patriot Patriot missiles. Our interceptors are down. We are now getting so low in our interceptors that we're not going to be able to protect these people anymore, meaning our own troops as well as Israel. And so...
Yeah, it's a PR mistake for Hegseth and Trump to go out and be so... I'm not going to say arrogant, but just really, really... this is what we've done, and this is we're just... because then... when they respond and do anything at all, then it hurts that credibility.
I know,
and I think they're very credible people, but can't ignore.
But we can say at this point, how 5 months in or whatever, you could technically say this is not another endless war. We haven't been there for a year, we haven't been there for 5 years, we haven't been there for 20 years. But the war is over, we have a deal. Now it's not. Now we have a deal. It then makes it feel like an endless war. And it makes it feel like, and it is a giant distraction from domestic issues, and it is weighing the administration down. And we talked about this last Monday, as a matter of fact. And just you can't help but think about this in terms of the midterms and the American people facing the possibility of having to live under the Democrat Party again. And so I'll just leave it at that. Sound off in the comments. Tell me where I'm wrong or dumb or stupid. I don't really care. I respect you guys. I know you guys are kind, but that's just the way I see it. And I've got Middle East fatigue real bad. Last story before we got to go. Are dogs racist, or can you be racist towards a dog? Well, according to this actor, and of course actors are smart and really like the upper. Actors really are best when they're telling us how to live our lives. Eric, I know you got to go, brother. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate you, brother. Actors are really best when they're telling us how to live our lives. Here is actor, who is this guy? John Bernthal from The Odyssey. Saying that
my dogs are the greatest, and they're
so
unbelievably
the myth of the pit bull is a lot of bullshit.
People got to stop that shit.
They got to stop.
People got to stop that.
Pit bulls don't attack.
No, man. It's just racism. It's just dog racism.
Right.
I think to be afraid of a breed of dog is completely ridiculous. It's like being afraid of somebody for their race or their sexual orientation. It's completely ridiculous. And I think if you see somebody, look, if a pit bull bites you, it's got to suck. You know what I mean? But they're no more likely to bite you than a Chihuahua or any other breed of dog.
That's ridiculous.
It probably has more to do with who owns them and how they were trained.
Yeah, I think that a lot of knuckleheads, unfortunately, are attracted to that breed of dog. And to me, when I see some wannabe gangster getting pulled down the Venice Beach by his pit bull, and I'm like, you feed that fucker, and he's pulling you down the, to me, that's not manly or strong at all. I think you got to train your dog.
Dog racism. Well, he is certainly right. You got to train your dog, and most people don't train their dogs. Okay, so I guess I would sort of agree with him there. Most people, regardless of what breed you have, now he's talking about pit bulls, it's dog racism, but most people who have dogs don't train them well. This is a fact. This is actually true, I think, for a lot of the reasons. So then when you get a dog, so you already have people that don't train them, so then when you get a breed that is prone to violence And that is the case. Like, that's the thing. It's just not dog racism. Pit bulls kill people every single year in far greater numbers than even German Shepherds. Okay, German Shepherds are fantastic dogs. I mean, that's the type of dog that I have. But I'm under no illusions that you have to train them right, because if a dog like that does decide to bite, then you're going to have a problem. Pit bulls, though, are literally bred to fight other dogs. That's where this comes from. They were bred to fight other dogs. And so they're incredibly territorial, and it's not a year goes by that you don't have some horror story about some mother who had bought a pit bull. This is a real story where the pit bull turned on her child and killed the child in front of the mother. The mother could do nothing about it. And I'll just be real, like, as somebody who is libertarian, and I'm not a libertarian now, and I believe that banning things is good sometimes. Sorry to any pit bull owners out there. I think the breed's so dangerous that it should be banned. I really do believe that. And you can say that, you in a way you can say, well, you hate that. But if there's already, most people don't train their dogs well. But if you have a Labradoodle, it's really not that big of a deal. No one's worried about a Labradoodle turning and killing your baby, but they might jump up on you and scratch you or something. But when you already have that as your most common denominator, the least common denominator, most people don't train their dogs the way they should, whether it's a Pomeranian or whether it's a pit bull. And so then you have that as the most common denominator. That would mean that then pit bulls are going to be more dangerous for lack of training. So yeah, I'm count me in the ban pit bulls camp. Sorry to all you pit bull owners out there. That is, I literally have raised my daughter to not go near those animals. I literally have raised her to be a breedist towards those dogs. She knows it too. And I've told her, because she loves dogs. And again, we got a great big German Shepherd, right? So, the idea is like, and you can do anything you want to our German Shepherd. He's not going to, well, unless you're Rob's son. One time, we were live on the air when this happened, and Rob's son came in, and he didn't know. And you guys witnessed how ferocious he can be when he's defending his territory. But he's got the best callback of any dog I've ever owned. He can be on a deer. We've got deer that get in our backyard sometimes. And, he can go after a deer in the middle of the night. And I call him back, and he stops chasing the deer and comes back. So really incredible dog. But, I don't even know where I was going with that. I totally messed up. Hey, in other news, let's see. We've got LifeSite News reporting another poll. Another poll has corroborated that American support for same-sex marriage, or marriage, while still a majority, is on the decline, likely due to the continued aggression of the LGBT lobby on gender issues. I think this is right, but I think I would go a step further. I think the polls are showing, the Economist YouGov's July 25th through the 27th poll, I think the reason that they're losing support is because people recognize that the slippery slope is real. And I think people, whether it's subconsciously or conscious, are beginning to believe that if we hadn't adopted gay marriage, we would not be transing kids. That one is connected to the other. That does not mean a gay person believes in transing kids. There are plenty that don't. But I believe people have connected the dot that you don't have transing kids and calling it healthcare without first adopting marriage much further up the slippery slope. And that is how I feel about that. That's all the time that we have for this edition of the Paul Harrell Program. I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell Program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. You see the promo code on your screen. Go there now and donate. We'll tell you more about them tomorrow. That is all the time. I am out of time. We will see you tomorrow.